Hey everybody, and welcome to another review on my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at a knockoff brickhead that I picked up on Temu. This particular build is based off a skull kit from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, which is my personal favorite Legend of Zelda game. This set comes with a total of 214 pieces and is recommended for ages 8 and up. And we're going to start off this review by taking a look at a full 360 of the figure itself. And I will say, for a knockoff build that is heavily inspired by LEGO brickheads, I do feel like it is a relatively solid build when it comes to its design. The mask that Skull Kid wears is very eye-catching and has a lot of colorful detail, which is accurate to its depiction in the video game. And the outfit that Skull Kid wears is primarily orange with little bits of gold and green mixed in, which is accurate again to the depiction of the character's design in the game. I also like the detail of having the cheese slopes at the end of the character's feet to give it a little bit of a pointed effect, which again is a pretty accurate detail to this character's depiction. And as we start to make our way around to the back of Skull Kid, you can see that the rest of his head is brown. And there is also some relatively solid detail to be found on the back of Skull Kid thanks to the use of those green pieces I mentioned earlier. And as we start to make our way back to the front of Skull Kid, I do want to take note of the hat that Skull Kid wears. I personally really like the building techniques that were used here to capture its overall shape and design. And as we make our way back to the front of Skull Kid, you can see more little bits of green and gold mixed in to give this figure some much needed color. But overall, my first impressions of this figure after I completed the build are relatively strong, and I think it has a pretty cute and charming design as a whole. Now we're going to take a little bit more of an in-depth look at the build, starting with the mask, which does have a relatively simple design, but I do like its overall look. There is some really nice color detail, and I do think the build is pretty solid as a whole. However, I do think that if LEGO were to make an official version of this character themselves, I do feel like they would have added some sort of printed detail onto the mask. But if we take the mask and put it to the side, you can see that there is no detail on the face of Skull Kid, which in my opinion is a little disappointing. I would have liked to have seen the character have some eyes underneath the mask just to give it that little bit of extra fun detail. You can also see that if we take a closer look at the face, that the mask is only held up by a singular studded piece. And due to that design choice, the mask does pop off a little bit too easily in my opinion. Now we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at the hat of Skull Kid, and like I mentioned earlier, it's a really solid build in my opinion. I think the overall shape and design of the hat as a whole is really solid, and it's a very symmetrical build, which is another thing that I greatly appreciate. Another thing that surprised me about this build in particular is it's actually really sturdy. When I was moving it around in my hands, I didn't feel like it was going to fall apart at all. And if we take a look at Skull Kid without his hat on, you can see that there is a light gray hinge, and this piece gives the hat a little bit of a slanted effect so it can properly fit onto Skull Kid's head. An interesting design choice about this build is that the arms are also connected by a singular studded piece, which I don't think is necessarily a negative, but I do find it to be very interesting. Because of this design choice, you can see that the arms have a little bit of articulation, and you can also see that the mask of Skull Kid fell off, reiterating what I mentioned earlier. Here's a look at Skull Kid next to some other unofficial Zelda brickheads, and I think that the overall shape and design of this build as a whole makes it fit right in with these characters. I also thought it would be fun to show Skull Kid next to some official LEGO brickheads as well, and again you can see he seems to fit right in with these official products. The instructions for this set are a little strange. You get these two really big pieces of paper, and as I unfold the instructions here, it may look a little overwhelming, but I will say that they were relatively easy to follow along. I don't think that these instructions are as easy to read as something you'd find on an official LEGO product, but I do feel like that the overall pacing of the build was designed relatively well, and I didn't have too much trouble with it. Like I said, I got this off of Temu, and I think I paid around $13 for it, which is a little bit more expensive than an official brickhead, but I do like Skull Kid's overall design here. And I am going to be a little bit biased as I absolutely love Skull Kid as a character, so I'm going to say it's worth that $13 price. Thank you so much for watching my review, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more brick built reviews in the future.